Hello everybody, welcome to the Roundup on UK Gaming Network. Our look back at all of the new games that we have been playing in the last month. And joining me for this month's episode, I have both UKGN Pad.
Yo!
And UKGN Teru.
Hello!
So we're looking back at the month of March 2024. We've played quite a few new games this month, according to the list. But first, as always, we're going to look back at a game from a previous month that we've only just got around to playing. And in the case of this month, it's a game that actually came out on the 29th of February, so therefore none of us had enough time to play it prior to the recording of last month's video. And this was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, so me and Pad will just start reading a magazine or something while you talk about this one, Teru.
Ultimately, amazing chocobos, me making incoherent noises, and I'll just finish with what I'm going to say with da 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 da. Alright, let's move on, because if not, we're going to be here for like hours of me going, oh my god, it's so amazing.
And that's an official review then, yeah?
Yeah, that's the official review.
That's the official review, and I'm pretty sure that Pad has not played it just the same as me, and that would be true, would it not?
Definitely not played it.
Okay.
Nor will I ever.
So let's move on to the first brand new game, which came out on the 1st of March, and that was the Mobius Machine, which is a Metroidvania platform game set on a vast alien world. We actually got a code for this one off the developer. They're called Mudrunner Works, and there is actually a full gameplay video of this one on our channel already, because I recorded that one like well over a month ago now. And it's very polished. I've quite enjoyed this one. My only problem with it really was the size of the world, because it really does take far too long to get anywhere in the early stages of the game, and that I can see that putting quite a few people off. But the controls work quite nicely. The main problem with it is that it's just not very memorable. Have you played this one at all, Pad?
I've not. It has been installed on the console, ready for me to play. I just have not had the time. Every time I stare at it or looking for the next game to play, I go, I need more time to play that. So it's kind of made it to that list of games that everybody has where they don't have enough time to play.
So moving on to the next game, we have Expeditions, a Mudrunner game, which came out on the 5th of March. Developed by Saber Interactive, a spin-off of the hugely successful Mudrunner series, which has always been a series that I've always admired rather than enjoyed, because I think the technical aspect of driving your car through some of the incredibly hostile terrain is always incredibly realistic, but I don't think it makes for a particularly enjoyable game. What they've done with Expeditions, though, is they've set the game in more of an open world, so you can pretty much set your waypoint way off in the distance and then choose your own route to get there, meaning that you can actually get completely stuck on some rocks if you're not careful. And visually, it is pretty incredible. Are the Mudrunner games anything that you've ever had a go on, Pad?
Mudrunner ones, no. I think was it a SnowRunner one?
SnowRunner, I think, was on Game Pass for a little while.
Yeah, so I played that one, and I couldn't get into it. It was like you said, it's a bit too slow. Couldn't get into it.
Well,
the new one I haven't had the opportunity to play.
Well, the new one I only got as a rental copy, so I only really had it for a few days to have a quick sample of it, and I don't think that was enough time to really get into it properly. But I could see that it was more of a game than previous entries in the series, if you know what I mean, rather than just being a full-blown simulation. And I think that side of it will probably ultimately make it more enjoyable in the long run. Released on the same day as Expeditions was the Xbox version of Manic Mechanics. Now, this is not a brand new game. This did come out on the Switch in July last year, but we never actually got around to playing it. So to us, this was a brand new game this month, and I know we have all played this one. This always seems to happen where two games that are very similar to each other always tend up coming out around the same time, and this is very similar to Speed Crew, which we talked about in the last episode of this. It's a little bit more chaotic, is how I found it to Speed Crew, and I think that's actually in this game's benefit.
First of all, I just want to point out that unfortunately I wasn't in the last video, and Brian made a claim that was false, and he needs to apologise for saying it by saying that I thought that Speed Crew was better than Overcooked. Now, you need to take that back right now on this video. Speed Crew was very, very good, but I didn't like the character movement of it. They weren't like Overcooked, where they had little stumpy legs and it was cartoony, and they tried to go a bit too simulator, even though it wasn't.
What I liked about Manic Mechanics, like I say, is how chaotic it gets, because that makes it more fun. So when you're throwing your items around and they are actually bouncing onto where you want them to go.
Yeah.
And I thought that side of things was a lot more fun than Speed Crew.
There are some nasty bugs in it. We had it where while we were trying to unlock the characters, it wasn't actually unlocking the character for me, even though I'd done all of the tasks that were required, which was 3 stars on Otto's levels, I think. I did have to reset the game, and it fixed that.
I imagine that you were too annoyed at having to replay the game again, though, because
no,
because as you say, you do enjoy it. So
I did enjoy it, and I have been through it multiple times now. I've been through the game multiple times, which is why I say it's better than Speed Crew. Now, when we played Speed Crew and finished it, I uninstalled it afterwards. And with Manic Mechanics, I have done every level to 3-star twice. It feels more like Overcooked. It feels more like Overcooked, which obviously is UKGN's greatest game of all time, essentially.
Well,
as a collective, we all have our own individual greater games, but as a collective, I would say that I believe Overcooked is our greatest game.
Is this where we need to we need to send out a plea to Ghost Town Games to please make another Overcooked?
It's either that, or if more DLC comes to Manic Mechanics, it could overtake it. Manic Mechanics
Old claim.
isn't as big a game in my eyes. Now, I've not counted the number of levels from each one, but Manic Mechanics is an easier game.
Yeah, there's nowhere near as many levels on Manic Mechanics as there is on Overcooked, even without the DLC.
I could see it being an Overcooked beta for UKGN.
Old claim indeed.
Yes, we'll have to see what the future holds in regards to Manic Mechanics then.
And so let's move on to the next game, because you're saying that Manic Mechanics is a potential game of the year.
Yeah.
I would have to disagree, because I don't think Manic Mechanics is even the best game of this month, because the next game that we're going to talk about is New Star GP, which came out on the 7th of March, and this, if this is not in my top 5 games come the end of the year, then we're going to have had a really, really good 2024, because I am absolutely loving this game. It looks like an arcade racer, but it's got almost as much depth as a Gran Turismo game, in terms of the just how much the career mode has with you looking after your team, looking after pit stops, having to upgrade your car, deal with sponsors, everything. It's got so much more depth than I was expecting. I mean, I played the demo of it months ago, so I was already looking forward to it, but the full game is even better than I was thinking it was going to be.
I do like the game. The game is great. The racing aspect of it is great. The depth, though, that you're talking about, now I'm only like 3/4 of the way through the first year of it. To me, the depth isn't there, because the story is basically something has happened, do you want this or this? That's all you ever get at the end of every single race. Do you want this to happen or this to happen?
I didn't even consider that this game has a story. As soon as you said the word story, I thought, really? I've not even considered that this game has a story.
I'd have thought you'd have gone with that because of how much you talked about the depth. But I don't think the depth is there.
It's a 10 race career where you have to make sure that you pick the right tyres for your race. You have to make sure you pick the right pit stop strategy. You have to make sure that you've done the setup on your car correctly. You have to make sure that you've upgraded your car correctly. You have to keep the different members of your team happy, and all of that is a balancing act throughout the entire season. And I'm halfway through I'm halfway through the second year of it now, and I've already put in nearly 11 hours worth of gameplay.
It's a good racing game, but I can't see it lasting long for me.
Well, we'll see what other racing games they have in store for us for the rest of the year. I think the only other one that I know of that's looking really good is Test Drive Unlimited, coming out in a couple of months. And so released on the same day as New Star GP, we have Valiant Hearts Coming Home, which is a long-awaited sequel to a game that came out on Xbox Live Arcade way back in the day from Ubisoft. The World War One set action adventure title, which was a really good game, the original one. I think all of us have played the original, and
the original. It was amazing.
And I think you could say the same thing about this sequel. The problem is that it's no better than the first one. It's just more of the same.
Which is kind of a good thing in its own way, but I do understand why it's like, okay, you've played the first one, it's so respectful of, the entire war and everything that has happened, which is, we need more war games like that, and it's, it's kind of educational as well. Because it's explaining, like, these are all the real things that did happen. Yes, it's got cute mini games in it.
It does have. It does have the all of the old newspaper clippings that you can, from the time, that you can go back and read and things like that to tell you the historical significance of all of it.
Yeah, if you liked the first one, you're gonna continue to like this second one, and it's just so nice.
It's not massively overpriced either. I think it only costs a tenner, so it's not going to break the bank if you did buy it as well.
Yeah, there's no reason not to play it, and it's just one of those. The only annoying thing is that it's come from Ubisoft. That's the only annoying thing about it.
Let's move on to the next game, which is Contra Operation Galuga. It came out on the 12th of March, developed by WayForward, the same people behind the Mummy Demastered, countless Shantae games, the developer who really know what they're doing when it comes to retro-styled modern stuff. This is a really good entry in the Contra series. I don't think I've enjoyed one this much since Contra Shattered Soldier on the PS2.
I love it. I still have a little rant about it, but nothing major. But generally, I love the game. I'm a big Contra fan anyway. Original Contra. I'm a big arcade fan.
I mean, it's the same as all other previous Contra games in that it does get incredibly silly with its difficulty at some stages, but that's what you expect from the series. So I don't think it would be right to criticise it too much for that. I know it has two-player co-op on it, but is that two-player co-op?
I don't think it's online. I think it's local. Yeah. I couldn't see an option for online, so unless I'm completely blind by it, but yeah.
Well, a quick Google search revealed that it is indeed not online, so that's a mark against it. But it's still it's still a game that I'm enjoying a lot, and would recommend that anybody who is a fan of shooting games definitely buys it.
Agreed. For once in this video.
So moving on to the next game that we have, which was Llamasoft, the Jeff Minter story, which came out on the 13th of March. This is the latest virtual documentary that Digital Eclipse have been producing for Atari. This is the second one, following on from the making of Karateka that came out a few months ago, and basically it delves into the history of a certain developer and goes into how a game was made with actual filmed documentary clips, as well as allowing you to go back and play various versions of old games. I mean, with this one, going back through the Llamasoft catalogue, there's actually 42 games on this that you can play at various points. I mean, there's a lot of versions of Grid Runner in there,
Yeah.
but it's still 42 games that you can play. My biggest disappointment with this is that it stops right before one of the really interesting sections and doesn't go on about it. And I can probably understand why, seeing as this compilation is endorsed by Atari, but it stops before all the problems that Jeff Minter had with Atari, which led to TXK on the PS Vita having to be removed from the store. So I can imagine Atari not wanting that to be widely known, and that's probably why it's not included here. But there's definitely a lot of Llamasoft games that have come out beyond the end of this of where this game stops. But if you've got any interest whatsoever in retro gaming, this is definitely a compilation, something that you should definitely have a go through at some point, in my opinion. So moving on to the next game, we have Alone in the Dark, which came out on the 20th of March. The latest entry in the long-running action-adventure horror series that started by developed by Infogrames originally, way back before the Resident Evil series even existed. There are many people out there who believe that the Resident Evil series was probably inspired by Alone in the Dark, certainly in terms of its fixed camera angles and such. This latest edition, they've drafted in the acting talents of David Harbour and Jodie Comer, the two different characters that you can play as. This is definitely a game where there are lots of good things about it, but there's also lots of bad things about it from what I've played. The good is that the atmosphere is fantastic. The graphics are really, really good. The whole exploring the house and solving the puzzles, which is what Alone in the Dark was always about in those early versions, that side of the game is really, really good. The problem is as soon as you take a gun out and start to try and do combat, the combat is appalling. There was also the fact that although the game gives you a choice between two characters at the start, the game is no different depending on which character you choose, because I did actually go back and check this.
I don't want to judge a game on what it's not, because you should only really critique it on what it is. But, you know, you've got two characters, why not have a possibility of having it two-player? I mean, there are all these things that it could have done in it, you know, and when you've got such great actors in it, and it's not just your main characters either, because what I've seen, the other actors in it have all done like amazing jobs.
This is one game where it would have benefited greatly by the removal of the combat, or they should have kept the combat to the absolute minimum.
I mean, wasn't this game technically ready last year, but they delayed it because its release window was in October, which was insanely busy last.
This was originally scheduled to come out the week before Alan Wake 2.
Yeah, so in that regard, that was a brilliant idea to delay the release of it.
Well, absolutely. And this game definitely does, as I say, game definitely does lack polish. Because it's only during the combat that it's happened, but whenever I've started shooting at some of the creatures in this, the frame rate has dropped quite drastically in places, and that's regardless of whether I'm playing it in performance mode or graphics mode.
If you delayed it for like a few months, why not take advantage of the time to just polish it? Like, even if it didn't remove anything, just
you'd like to think that they have been spending the last few months polishing it. So it was probably it was probably in an even worse state back then, which is probably why they actually delayed it, and it had nothing to do with the release window.
That is a bit of a scary thought, actually.
So at the other end of the spectrum from Alone in the Dark, the next game that came out in the month was Princess Peach Showtime, which came out on the 22nd of March, the latest Nintendo opus. This one is actually developed by Goodfeel, the same team responsible for Yoshi's Epic Yarn, was it? Was it Kirby's?
World, I think.
It was Kirby's Epic Yarn, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was one that they made.
And the Crafted World and Woolly World, I think they made.
Yeah. I'm just looking at their list now. They made Kirby's Epic Yarn, Yoshi's Woolly World, Yoshi's Crafted World, Wario Land Shake It back on the Wii. So they do have a long-standing relationship with Nintendo, handling some of their IPs. This one is one that I wanted to play, but my rental copy never actually arrived. So my only experience of playing this is the demo, and from playing the demo, I could tell that it has all the usual polish that you would expect from a Nintendo game, but probably none of the. It didn't seem like it had any of the imagination behind it.
Disagree. I don't think it's polished for a Nintendo game. It's an okay game. It feels as though the Switch is struggling with it. Just to double check, it's not my Switch. I've tried it on an OLED, I've tried it on an original Switch, and I've tried it on a Lite. It just doesn't feel Nintendo. There's too much trying to go on, and I don't know what it is that's...
It definitely doesn't have the imagination that Crafted World had, for instance. If we're talking about games from the same developer.
I don't think it's up there with their best work. I did like the Yoshi's Crafted World. Considering this is meant to be set on a stage, Crafted World felt more like it was on a stage than this does.
I tell you what it feels like. It feels like an end-of-generation Nintendo game.
Possibly. It definitely feels as though the Switch is struggling with it. Why, I don't know, but it definitely feels as though the Switch is
obviously
struggling.
we are expecting a new system from Nintendo at some point on the horizon.
Yeah, but the Switch shouldn't be struggling with this. I don't know what they've done, but it shouldn't be struggling. When you take a look at Crafted World, for example, by the same guys, that felt nice. The animation was great on it. It didn't have any jerkiness to it, nothing. It was just beautiful. It feels as though it's just a stopgap in the middle of we've not released something for a while, let's just release that.
So let's move on to the next game then, which is Rise of the Ronin, which came out on the 23rd of March for the PlayStation 5. This is the latest game developed by Team Ninja, the team responsible for Ninja Gaiden. And this is from my limited experience of playing it, because I didn't play it. I've only played it for a couple of hours. It feels to me like a cross between Ghost of Tsushima and Sekiro.
Just from looking at it, I'd have to agree. It's, as Pad mentioned earlier about, games going on the list of if only you had enough time to play. This is going on that list for me.
Everybody has that list.
Yeah,
everyone's got that list. You go, I'm going to play it when I've got some time because I really want to sink my teeth into it. And you just never find that time. So it stays installed on your console and you never play it.
Well, this is the kind of thing that always happens in the gaming industry, though, because in the last month we've had Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Dragon's Dogma 2, and Rise of the Ronin all released, all being targeted at the same type of gamer. And surely the people who are going to be interested in those games are wanting to buy all three of them and play all three of them. They're not wanting to have to choose which one they're getting. But like I say, this is the kind of thing that always happens in the games industry. It happened with EA releasing Titanfall between Battlefield and Call of Duty within the space of a 2-week period. It happened with Blur and Split Second, both coming out at the same time, but way back in the day. It's like, why are they releasing these games that are targeting the same players at the same time? Yeah, on to the next game, which is Bulwark Falconeer Chronicles, which came out on the 26th of March. This is the follow-up to the Falconeer, which was a Xbox Series X launch title, I believe, back in the day. Developed by a solo developer, Thomas Sala. And whereas the first game was more of a Star Fox style flying around arcade shooter, this one is a city builder, where you actually get to construct one of the colonies that you flew over in the game, and it's been designed to be a casual chill out game rather than something that's much more in depth, like Frostpunk, for instance. from what I've played of it so far, I am finding it to be a quite a nice chilled out experience.
My turn to disagree now. It was so boring. I got a refund off Steam. So it annoyed me, it frustrated me that I essentially did the tutorial, which is also the same as the demo, around about 4 times. Just to try and work out what I was doing wrong. I played the demo initially, which is why I wanted to buy it and play the full game, because obviously with the demo it's very limiting, but that's the demo, it's expected. So it was definitely enough to get me interested, because I loved city builders.
Do you?
The day that... Oh god, yeah, I love city builders. I love city skylines. Then I buy early access city builders half the time as well. Timberborn is a favourite one of mine. So when that's full release, that's another one I could go on for about an hour for. But no, when it came to this one, it's like, okay, start it up. Okay, alright, got to go through the tutorial, which is essentially the demo again. What do I do next? Okay, I start clicking on everything that I can get my hands on, and nothing. I just keep getting the same dialogue over and over again. And I'm like, I could be playing Final Fantasy right now. So I requested Steam for a refund.
And so moving on to the next game is one that I'm not sure if Pad has actually played yet, but I know he does have access to it. This is South Park Snow Day, which also came out on the 26th of March, which is the long-awaited follow-up to, is it the Fractured Butthole? Was that the last one that they did?
I think so, yeah.
They did the Stick of Truth, then the Fractured Butthole, and now Snow Day. And this one is a completely different type of game to those two. And if you enjoyed those two games, I don't think you're going to enjoy this one at all. Because from a gameplay point of view, this is not great. But if all you're going to do is sit down and watch the cutscenes, then they are really funny, because it's South Park. Have you played this one, Pad?
I've not, no. It is installed and ready to play. Although, after this recording, I may uninstall it if you're telling me that it's rubbish.
Well, I've not had a chance to play it co-op yet. So from playing it from single player point, because it's been designed as a 4-player co-op game. So playing it on my own gets incredibly frustrating. I mean, the actual combat mechanics are a bit clunky, but because I'm playing it with 3 AI people, they're all useless, and I'm constantly having to go and revive them. So maybe playing it in co-op will be better, will make it more enjoyable. But I think it's worth playing if you're a South Park fan for the cutscenes, because I have laughed out loud quite a few times to the cutscenes.
Well, then we should play it co-op soon then, before I delete it.
And then moving on to the final game of the month, we have Pepper Grinder, which came out on the Switch on the 28th of March, and we are 3 months into 2024, and every single month so far this year, we have had a really good platform game. We had Prince of Persia in January, we had Penny's Big Breakaway in February, and now we've got Pepper Grinder in March. This is turning out to be a very good year for platformers. This game feels to me like somebody played Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and they got to the section where you could start drilling through the sandy bits of the scenery, and thought, "Ooh, I'm going to make an entire game out of that." But after having played the full game, that's only the starting point of where it is. They start chucking all their own ideas on top, and I'm finding it really enjoyable. I mean, at the time of recording, it's only been out for 24 hours, but from what I've played of it in those 24 hours, this is definitely a top quality platform game, and it's only 13 quid, and I couldn't recommend it any higher.
Haven't played it. When you told me about it yesterday, or when I saw the list of games that came out this month from you yesterday, I did go and look at it, and it's one that I'm going to buy, but I just haven't got time yet.
Games like this have usually ended up being around the 25 quid mark on other systems, so when I saw that it was only 13, I was really pleasantly surprised by it, because I was already planning on buying it anyway. regardless of how much it was. So I was really happy to see that it was only £13. And so that's all the games that came out in March that we have played. What is your game of the month, Pad?
Manic Mechanics.
As if I needed to ask. And what is your game of the month, Teru?
Say Rebirth. Even though that's technically last month.
But anyway, my game of the month was New Star GP. So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Pad and Teru, for joining me for this discussion. We will be back at the end of April for another video just like this one. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do give us a like and subscribe. Anything else you want to add, Pad, before we sign off?
No, I'm happy.
Okay. And Teru, thank you very much for joining me. I'll let you get back to playing some Final Fantasy now.
Well, I'm actually helping Pad clean the clock tower from the Back to the Future DLC on Power Wash Simulator.
Fair enough. So yes, thank you everybody, and I will see you next month.